Hello there, you amazing viewers and subscribers. Welcome to a brand new amazing Doctor Who topic view for today. For this Doctor Who video, I'm going to be showing you my entire Doctor Who Target book collection. Now, the Target books have got a famous piece of history in them. So back in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, there was no repeats of Doctor Who, only special omnibus versions, like for basically Spare from Space, the Daemons, then of course Day of the Daleks or the Sea Devils for season 9, the Green Death, and of course the Planet of the Spiders and the Time Warrior, I believe. Plus there was also other versions of like an omnibus version for Genesis of the Daleks, Terror of the Zygons, and other pieces of stories that for Doctor Who, but repeats were very rare. I mean, the first time we had repeats for Doctor Who was back in 1981, where they did the whole marathon of the Five Faces of Doctor Who, where they kind of showed the Unearthly Child back then of course the Croutons, the Three Doctors, kind of for the monsters, and Legopolis for the Five Faces of Doctor Who. And then the following year they did a monster Doctor Who and the Monster Marathon, and they showed Genesis of the Daleks and some other random bits and dabs of random Doctor Who stories. But the Target books really came into play around about the early 1970s, so people can actually read the on the actual from the episodes from the 60s. So this is a little handful of mine. I'm absolutely loving my fantastic Target book collection. I have managed to complete some seasons on Target book, not many, only a handful. So when we get there, I will show you at some point, because I will mention what seasons these are in. So let's dive into my Target book collection. So of course, the first thing I've got in my Target book collection is this rare piece called the Target book, which has got fantastic bits and dabs of art covering between the literally artwork for the Doctors between the first and the fourth Doctors, with quite a few seventh and eighth, like seventh, fifth, and sixth Doctors, as you can see. That's some of the stuff that was in here. Then of course we've got Doctor Who and the Sarbini. This is when Target books came into play, and that's what they look like when they literally were rolling with them. Then of course you've got the Daleks, Doctor Who and the Sarbini. You got the so it's a nice little book about explaining all about the Target book side of it and collection, which is absolutely brilliant to own. And that's the back, so you can see we've got Attack of the Cybermen there and some other stories. And of course you've got the jail guards from the Three Doctors escorting the second Doctor to Omega. So that's actually quite good to own for the Target book side. I actually love it, and as you can tell, it's a book that I bought from a second-hand store. It was £2 for £5. They bought quite a few of a Doctor Who books, so it's actually quite nice to have this rare piece of material. Haven't fully read it. I have read it for quite a while, so I am diving into it. So talking about the actual Doctor Who collection side for the Target box, so I'll show you what I have got, and I will mention what seasons they are to. So let's dive in for season 1. So for the Target box of Doctor Who season 1, I only have 4 books. 4 books for season 1, which isn't pretty bad going. So the stories I've got on Target book is of course Doctor Who and the Daleks, which is a fantastic piece of Doctor Who writing, and I got this from last year. I got this from the Book and Collectibles store that I went into yesterday, and I got a fantastic handful of Doctor Who. So I picked up this one, this little beauty, Doctor Who and the Daleks for season 1. Then of course for season 1 I've got the 4th story. Now this story is generally missing out there in the whole fandom because it kind of got wiped, but it's quite nice to have it in the Target book, and I do have to do a review on it, but I need to give this one another read. I've got Marco Polo. Yes, the actual 4th story in Doctor Who lore is missing, and I've got it here in my hands. Fantastic. And I've got this in the bundle that my friend Shane and Amy got me only for £5, with a load of other bundles between the 1st and basically from the 1st to the 5th Doctor. So it's quite nice to have Marco Polo. I have read it. I did a review on it a couple of years ago, but I need to do another review on it. So then of course I've got the Keys of Madness, which is Doctor Who's 5th story. And of course it basically is from the 7-part story, where basically the Doctor has got to go through different random doors. So they got the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara going through different doors to try and find the Keys of Madness, which is absolutely brilliant. I love that artwork. I mean, look how good that looks. So that's another kind of good piece to own in my collection. And then of course I own, for the last story I own for season 1 so far on Target book, The Aztecs. You cannot rewrite history, not one line. Believe me, I know. I know. I absolutely love the Aztecs. It is a fantastic story and I just generally love it. It's brilliant. It's amazing and I can't get enough of it. I really love it. Season 2 is next, and of course for season 2 I've only got 2 stories from season 2. So yeah, season 1's kind of good before. Season 2 is the one where it's my favourite Hartnell season, but I'm only missing a lot of stories. I've got 2 out of the 9 stories. So the 2 I've got is Doctor Who and the Sarbini and Doctor Who the Crusaders, which is a missing story, but it has been released on Blu-ray with Tony Slap reconstructions, which is actually pretty good. I don't mind watching that. So that's for season 2. Season 3, I kind of have 3 books for season 3. So I'm in the middle of reading one from season 3 at the moment. So I've got Doctor Who the Mythmakers, which is Vicky's last story with the Doctor and Stephen before she ends up falling in love and going off into Troy. And then, of course, I've got the fantastic Dalek Master Plan, a fantastic 12-part Dalek story that is currently missing. Only 3 stories do exist for this. So this one has got Mission to the Unknown, and it's called the Dalek Master Plan Part 1, and the second one is called the Mutineer of Tai, which is basically the second part of this fantastic story. So it's quite nice to own these. I haven't read this one yet because I'm currently in the middle of reading this one, and you can see my Jodie Whittaker bookmark. So that is it for season 3. Season 4 was one I didn't really have a lot on when I first got around to season 4. I only had 1 story. So for season 4, I have now got 4 stories for season 4, which is actually quite good. And season 4 is incredible. So the stories I've got for season 4, we've got Doctor Who and the 10th Planet on Target Book. I do need to do a review on this one as well. I really do. Then, of course, for Patrick Troughton, we've got Doctor Who and the Simon. This is the Target Book adaptation to the Moonbase, which is a fantastic story. And I really love this story. I have got to do a review on that one as well. I've got quite a few stories I really do want to do a review on for these Target Books. And then, of course, I've got the Macra Terror Target Book. I come across this one in a second-hand shop. Normally, I've seen this go between £50 to £60, but I actually paid £1.50 for it in a second-hand shop. And I don't think they had any idea how rare this book is, so it's actually quite nice to own the Macra Terror on Target Book. And then, of course, I've got Doctor Who The Faceless Ones, which, again, is a good story. Not one of my personal favourites, but I still quite enjoy it. So that is it for season 4. Season 5, I've got literally 3 books for season 5. So let's dive into what books I own for season 5. So season 5, I've got Doctor Who and the Abominable Snowmen. Got this round about the time the animation was announced, and I kind of wanted to dive into the story of this story. So I do need to do a review on that one. And then, of course, we've got Doctor Who, The Enemy of the World. Now, this is one of the 2 releases, because there is another release for this one, but it has a kind of a different artwork to it, which was in Book and Collectibles yesterday, but I didn't pick it up because I've already got Enemy of the World. I didn't really want to get it again, and because as this one is in very, very neat condition. So it's quite nice to own that one. And, of course, I own another fantastic book, and that is The Web of Fear, one of my favourite stories from season 5. I absolutely love this story. I have read this way before the animation came out for episode 3, so I did kind of read this one. And I do need to do a review on this one. I really do need to do it. So, jumping into season 6. Patrick Troughton's third season as the second Doctor in his last season. And for this one, I've only got 3 Target books. So really, the 60s era on Target Book are the ones I kind of need to focus a bit more on. So for season 6, I've got The Invasion, which is a fantastic story and my favourite Troughton story. And this is actually really brilliant because I really do imagine some more scenes differently now. So instead of seeing the scenes with someone come out of the sewers and when they pop out, I actually can imagine the story. Really helps me to imagine them literally putting their fist through the actual drain pot covering and getting up. So it's actually quite good. I really love reading that one. Then, of course, I've got one very, very speciality, and this was a library book because it still has the library stamp in it, as you can see there. So the story itself is The Croutons, and this is an actual doozy. It is a hardback cover. Now these used to be fantastically only for libraries, so it's actually quite nice to have a library book in neat condition. The Croutons, not many people love it. I have to be honest, I got a bit of a soft spot for it. I mean, I don't get why people say it's the most bad Troughton story out there. It's actually pretty decent. I do quite enjoy it because it does play around, especially with the scene where the Doctor is trying to stop Zoe from going to meet the Croutons on her own, and he's there going, "Oh, wait, what do I do? Oh, go away! No, come back! Yeah, go away! Come back! Oh no!" You know, I can actually imagine every single information that is given for the Second Doctor, every little word he gives. I can actually imagine reading that in Troughton's voice in my head. It's just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely. And then, of course, the third story for season 6 I got is, of course, the penultimate story and the last story for season 6. And, of course, it's the last story for Patrick Troughton. So it's quite nice that I own on Toggybook the regeneration story for the first Doctor that I'm playing, and I actually own the second one. So this is another regeneration story, and it is to the War Games. The War Games is a 10-part amazing story. I do quite love it. So it's actually quite nice to own on Targetbook. So then jumping into Jon Pertwee for season 7. So for season 7, I've got Doctor Who and the Auton Invasion. And this is actually the book adaptation to Spearhead from Space, which is a fantastic story. And it does give you some list illustrations, because it has got a nice little drawing, especially when you got the Doctor in the wheelchair rolling away, which actually does make me laugh every time I go to see it. Then, of course, I've got Doctor Who and the Cave Monsters, which is the adaptation to Doctor Who's and the Silurians. Yes, I picked up the Ambassadors of Death, and it's really good to own. I mean, thanks to, you know, booking collectibles, I actually managed to finish season 7. So season 7 is the first ever season fully complete on Doctor Who at the moment that you can see. I mean, the 60s I need to focus a bit more on, but for season 7, as you can see, I got the Ambassadors of Death and Inferno. So it's actually quite nice to own all of season 7. So this is the first season kind of complete in the book so far in Target Books. So I do have a few other seasons complete, so you will see them a bit later on. But I've got season 7 now complete, and that's absolutely brilliant, because season 7 is my second favourite Jon Pertwee season, so it's actually brilliant to have all of season 7 on Target Book, and I really cannot wait to dive into the Ambassadors of Death after I've read the Daleks Master Plan. Season 8. I've only got 2 books for season 8, which is going from a complete season, like season 7 on Target Book, to go to 2 stories for season 8. Yeah, I really need to focus a bit more on season 8 and some other seasons. So I've got Terror of the Autons and the Daemons, the opening story to season 8 and the penultimate story to season 8, the Daemons. So it's actually quite nice to own these. So really, I just need to try and get my hands on the Mind of Evil, Claws of Axos, and Connery in Space, and then that season will be complete on Target Book. Fingers crossed I get them soon. Season 9. Again, for season 9, I've only got 2 books for the season. So I've got the opening story, aka Doctor Who and the Day of the Daleks. Again, this storybook is absolutely brilliant. The book adaptation to it is fantastic, and I will do a review on it at some point. And the second and final story I got for this season on Target Book is The Sea Devils, an absolutely fan favourite story of mine. You all know it if you've watched my channel for over the last couple of years. The Sea Devils is my favourite Jon Pertwee story, and to be honest with you, it's actually quite nice to own the Target Book. So now I've got the Target Book, I've got the VHS, I've got the DVD, and I've got the Blu-ray. So I've got all 4 versions of Doctor Who and the Sea Devils released, which is absolutely brilliant to own. Season 10, I've only got 2 books for the season, which is really, really not so good, considering that season 10 is my favourite Jon Pertwee season. So which means I really need to try and focus a bit more on this season. The stories I've got is literally Planet of the Daleks and The Green Death. So this is the second to final story for the season, and this is the penultimate story for the season. So I've got The Green Death, which is the closure, and of course Jo Grantley's in this one after she falls in love with Dr. Jones, which is absolutely brilliant. And to be honest with you, I need to really focus on the other stories, which is basically Doctor Who, the 3 Doctors, Doctor Who and the Con of the Monsters, and Doctor Who and the Space War, which is Frontier in Space. Season 11 is next, and this one I'm kind of happy to say I've got every single story on Target Book for season 11. So really, for so far, I've got seasons 7 and 11, Jon Pertwee's first season and Jon Pertwee's last season as the Doctor complete on Target Book, which is absolutely brilliant. So I own Doctor Who and the Time Warrior, which is the introduction story to Sarah Jane Smith, and the Santaran. So that's quite nice to own on Target Book. Then, of course, I got Doctor Who and the Dinosaur Invasion, which is Target Book has really helped me because my biggest complaint about the DVD was the really bad dinosaur effects. But since I rewatched that last year, I've kind of got more of a soft spot for it. It's starting to become an actual one of my little gems for the season 11, and I need to do a whole video of me ranking all of the Pertwee stories again. So that is another one I need to do. Then, of course, I got Doctor Who Death to the Daleks. I mean, look at that explosion on the Dalek. That looks pretty good. I haven't read this one yet, but I will get around to it. Half of these I have read, half of these I haven't read because I'm literally in the middle of reading quite a few of these. So I do pick these up when I see them, even though I might reading a couple of them. I mean, I have read a lot of them, but not all of them. Doctor Who and the Monster of Paladon is next, aka the second to final story for Jon Pertwee, and it's the Ice Warriors. I absolutely love the artwork of the Ice Warriors and Agadon. That's absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, I own another Regeneration story. So far, I've got 3 Regeneration stories in my collection. And I've got Doctor Who Planet of the Spiders. Jon Pertwee's finale is the penultimate story to season 11. It's actually quite brilliant because even though I know the great one's a big giant spider that we see later on in parts 4, 5 and 6. I can actually imagine her voice because the way her voice is in the TV show, it's more clear. But when I read it, I literally imagine her being 10 times more bigger and more of a deeper voice than she actually was portrayed on screen. So it's actually quite nice that this helps with my imagination. And then, of course, we jump into Tom Baker, my favourite Doctor ever. So then, of course, I've got Doctor Who and the Giant Robot for season 12, which is the opening story and Tom Baker's very first story as the 4th Doctor, and it is iconic, absolutely iconic to own. And then, of course, I've got Doctor Who and the Ark in Space, again, absolutely brilliant, fantastic. This season is nearly complete because I've just got one more story to get, and you'll understand which one that is. Then, of course, next I've got Genesis of the Daleks, which is a fantastic story in the introduction to Davros. And, of course, Doctor Who Revenge of the Cybermen. Again, another fantastic story. So the only one I'm kind of missing for season 12 is the Santaran Experiment. But hopefully I do get that soon and complete another season, which I really want to do, which is actually quite good. Season 13 is next for the Target Box. So for season 13, I own Doctor Who and the Planet of Evil. Unfortunately, I don't own Doctor Who and Terror of the Zygons on Target Book, but I do have the second story. Pyramids of Mars, which is my favourite story of the season. I absolutely love Sutekh, so this actually does help me imagine his voice being a lot more boomful than it was portrayed in the actual episode. But even though Stephen Fry is it Stephen Fry or something like that? He did a fantastic voice as Omega and as Sutekh. Next, I have the Android Invasion. Not a favourite of mine. It's definitely the weak link of season 13, but it's still pretty much enjoyable. Then, of course, I've got Doctor Who and the Brain of Morbius. This is one of the books because it has 2 releases. So this is the first one, and then, of course, this is the second one with, as you can see, 2. The artwork is the same, but just different colouring. So I don't know which one's rare, which one isn't rare, because I would get rid of one of these. So I only want this one once. I only want the story once, not twice. So I am trying to think which one came first. I think it was this one. I'm not too sure, but that one I do quite like the red in, so I'm not 100% sure. Might do like a get rid of that at some point, but at the moment not. And then, of course, I have the penultimate story to season 13, and that is Doctor Who, The Seeds of Death. So, Doom, sorry, The Seeds of Doom. So as you can see, we've got a fantastic Crinoid, and there we've got the Doctor and Sarah Jane. So that is season 13. It's nearly complete. I just got to get Terror of the Zygons, and then that season would be complete. So Tom Baker is doing pretty good so far. I need 1 story for season 12 I need to complete, and 1 story from season 13 to complete. Season 14, and I'm actually quite happy to say season 14 is actually complete on Target Book. It really is complete. So the stories you get in season 14, which is complete. Doctor Who and the Mask of Mandragora. I do like that artwork. I absolutely love it. Doctor Who and the Hand of Fear. I've got Doctor Who, the Deadly Assassin. I really love that artwork of the mask. It makes him look so creepy, and the timeless look so good in that artwork. Doctor Who and the Face of Evil, absolutely brilliant. Sarah, introduction to Leela, the of the Savatine, Warrior of the Savatine. Quite happy to read that one again. I have read it. I've read it quite a few times. It's a great story. Doctor Who Robots of Death, a fantastic Agatha Christie type storyline for Doctor Who, and it's done so brilliantly and absolutely fantastic. And then the final story of the season, which was, of course, The Talents of Wing Chiang. So I've got season 14. So far I've got seasons 7, 11 and 14 complete on Target Book, and how good's that, eh? Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So I've gone from having 2 complete seasons to 3, which is actually quite good. So next, of course, we have season 15 for Horror of Fang Rock, which is a fantastic and my favourite story of the actual season, which is why I'm really looking forward to the Blu-ray next month. And then, of course, I've got some other fantastic stories for season 15, because I've only got 4. I'm only missing 2 stories because there's 6 stories, so I've got 4. So then, of course, I've got Doctor Who and Images of Vandal, Doctor Who and the Sunmakers, and, of course, Doctor Who and the Underworld. I am only missing the Invasion of Time, the Invisible Enemy, and the Invasion of Time. Sorry, for season 15. Season 16, again, this one I'm a little bit disappointed on myself on, because I've only got 2 stories for season 16. I've got the Reboss Operation and the Stones of Blood. I know that basically the Armageddon Factor has been released, and so is the Android Invasion and the Stones of Blood. Not Stones of Blood, and the Pirate Planet. So I do need to go and pick them up at some point, but it's actually quite nice to own these 2 as well. Absolutely brilliant and amazing. Fantastic. Cannot wait. Season 17, and again, I own quite a bit of this season. I'm only missing 2 stories, which I will say at the end. So I've got season 17, Day of the Daleks. I love that artwork. Look how good Tom Baker looks with Daleks around him. Look how brilliant that looks. So I've got Day of the Daleks. I've got the City of Death. Now this one I already had, and I am never going to get rid of it, because yesterday, as you can tell, I picked up it in the book and collectibles, but I already own it, so there's no point in me getting that one. And then, of course, I own Creature from the Pit for the finals, and then, of course, I own the Horns of Nimon. So I'm only missing Nightmare of Eden and Shada on Target Book. If Shada was actually ever released, if it wasn't released or it hasn't been released, then I just need the Nightmare of Eden. And then that's season 17 complete. Season 18 is next. So we are nearly there for the end of the classic series, because I haven't got many of the classic series. And then, of course, we're going to New Who territory, so you can see which ones I own. Season 18, I have got the Leisure Hive, which is the very first story to open up the season. So it's quite nice to own this story. Not a fan favourite of mine, but the story itself is pretty decent on Target Book. Meglos, absolutely a fantastic story. I love the fact that Meglos can shapeshift into the 4th Doctor to try and basically tease, like, trick people. It's absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love that one. Then, of course, I have State of Decay, which is the 2nd story to the E-Space trilogy. State of Decay is one of my favourite stories out of season 18. I will talk about a bit more about that when I do my ranking video of season 18. So we have State of Decay, and then, of course, the final story of the season is, of course, Logopolis. And that is it for season 18. So Logopolis, I've got another Regeneration story. So basically, I've now got 4 Regeneration stories out of a lot of them. Season 18, I'm only missing Full Circle and Warriors Gate and Keeper of Traken. So really, 3 stories out of 7 ain't so bad, which is something I'm really happy about. Season 19 is next on this list. So for season 19, I have actually got quite a few of season 19. So for season 19, I've got 4 stories. So I am missing quite a few stories. So the stories I've got for season 19, so I've got Catastrophe Alpha, which follows on from Logopolis. Absolutely splendid to own. Then, of course, I have Kinder. Again, not too fond of Kinder. I do prefer Snake Dance so much better. But it's actually quite nice to have Kinder in Target Book, and I did buy this one a bit battered. But the problem is, though, it's trying to find stuff that are in pretty good nick for most of these Target Books. So some of these are a little bit battered and stuff, but I don't mind. Then, of course, I got The Visitation, which is my favourite story out of season 19. I love The Visitation. The Tellarites, absolutely brilliant as well. Absolutely brilliant. And the way they are described in Target Book 4 is just absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love it. And then, of course, I have Time Flight. Yes, the final story of season 19. Not many people love it, but the Target book I actually do quite enjoy. I mean, I absolutely love it. I know people don't like the Terrorise story, but the Target book really does help it stand out a little bit on its own. And then, of course, jumping into season 20. Season 20 is very, very badly shaped in Target book form for me. So the stories I've got on its own is literally Snake Dance, which is the second story of season 20. So I've got Snake Dance, so I do have the whole Mara stories. Then, of course, I have Maldrene Undead, which is the first part of the Black Guardian trilogy and the third story of season 20. And then, of course, I own the Five Doctors. I had to get a multi-doctor story on Target book, and of course, it is the Five Doctors. I absolutely love the Five Doctors. It is my favourite multi-doctor story. Some people say the Three Doctors is their favourite. For me, it's my second favourite multi-doctor story. I just love the Five Doctors a hell of a lot more because it was the first story I actually watched growing up of Doctor Who, because Tom Baker was the Doctor I kind of watched all the way through on UK Gold with my dad and my granddad, and Peter Davis was the second Doctor. So this was the introduction to basically Patrick Troughton and the second Doctor and the first Doctor to me. So this was actually the main proper introduction to those two Doctors, because I caught growing up the last three stories with John Pertwee, all of Tom Baker I watched, all of Peter Davison. So it was actually quite nice for me to see Patrick Troughton and John and kind of the second and first Doctors, which kind of made me want to go back and watch their eras growing up, which I did. So that was basically my first introduction to the second and first Doctors. The Five Doctors was. Season 21, very, very, very badly shaped in my collection for Target Box, considering I've only got 2 stories for it. And of course, these are the 2 weakest links of the season. So for Target Book, I own Warriors of the Deep. Haven't read this one yet. I got this one around about June last year. I still need to read it. So we've got Warriors of the Deep. So technically, I have got all of the classic stories for the Sea Devils and the Silurians complete. And then, of course, I have the penultimate story for season 21. The Twin Dilemma. Not a regeneration story, but a post-regeneration story. You know my feelings on it. I haven't read this one yet. I got this one back in May last year at Comic Con. I only paid £2 for it, so I was going to read it there and then, but I kind of got more Target books since May, and I do kind of want to start reading them a bit more, so I do have that one. Season 22 is next, and of course, season 22, I've only got 2 books for season 22, so Colin Baker has only got 2 book stories from his first full-on season. So the stories I've got is Attack of the Cybermen and Vengeance on Varos. So basically, I've got his first story from season 22 and the second story of season 22, which is actually quite good to own, but my favourite is Attack of the Cybermen. I love that artwork cover. That's my second favourite artwork cover so far, but I just absolutely love that one for Colin Baker. I need to do my video of my 5 favourite artwork covers. Then, of course, as a little special treat, I own the Missing Story episodes. And, of course, part of the Missing episodes is the second story to the original season 23, which is Mission to Maglos. So this story would have seen a return of Syl and the Ice Warriors since 1974. Unfortunately, this story is missing, but I do own it here on Target Book. And, of course, I own it on Big Finish, which is absolutely brilliant to own. I do have it on CD, but it's literally right at the bottom of this shelf. So yeah, I do have Mission to Maglos. Unfortunately, I do not own the rare books for the Lost Season 23, because that is the Nightmare Fair, which is very, very rare. And I haven't come across that in the wild. I'm so lucky I came across Mission to Maglos, because it was the second rarest, but I came across that in a charity shop of all places. So fingers crossed I find the Nightmare Fair in a charity shop, because that was the return of the Toy Maker, which I really do want to listen to. Now, for the only story I've got for the Trial of Time Lord, aka the real season 23, not the original season 23, which was Mission to Maglos, I've got Terror of the Vervoids. I don't own The Mysterious Planet, I don't own Mind Warp or The Ultimate Foe, but I do have Terror of the Vervoids, which is my favourite story out of that entire whole season story arc. Or as some people call it, the Planet of the Vagina Heads. I absolutely do love this story. It's absolutely brilliant. Set on a murder mystery. A bit like how good Robots of Death is, but it's more like a better version of Robots of Death, so it's actually quite good to own. Then, of course, I own nothing for season 24. Nothing for season 24, unfortunately, but I do own season 25. Only 2 stories from season 25. So, I own on Target Book for season 25, Silver Nemesis, and The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. So, yeah, I've got the 3rd and 4th story of season 25, which is actually quite good, I think. So, I've got 2 books from McCoy, and really the rest is very much hit and miss. Unfortunately, I do not own any of the other books for like season 26. So the only 2 stories the 2 seasons I haven't got any of is season 26 and season 24. But as you can see, I got season 21 all the way down to season 23 with only 1 book from that, and then of course jumping into season 25. So then of course I have got a few more Target books to show you. So I've got Doctor Who the TV movie, Planet Earth 1999. He's back. And it's about time. Yes, that was the actual trailer for the TV movie, by the way. I haven't read this one yet. I'm dying to read it because I do love the TV movie. I really love Paul McGann's 8th Doctor. Eric Roberts' Master is very, very campish. But I have listened to a few bits and dabs in Big Finish, and he's actually starting to change my mind. So I'm kind of having my mind changed on his performance as the Master. But yeah, I do love the TV movie. It's actually a good piece of Doctor Who merch out there, but it's quite nice to own the Target book of the TV movie. Really, really good to own. Absolutely brilliant. So series 1, and I've only got 1 book for series 1, and that is Rose, the opening story to series 1. So the 9th Doctor comes across Rose Tyler and the Autons. I have stated how much I love Rose, the episode, and don't really like Rose as a character because she kind of gets a little bit boring after series 2. During series 2, she kind of gets a little bit boring. So Rose is quite good in series 1. I absolutely love this episode though. It's brilliant. It's a great way to introduce new people into Doctor Who, which it was actually originally intended to. Series 2 is next, and the Target book story I own for series 2 is of course the Christmas Invasion. The opening story, I don't really like the Christmas Invasion. It's not a good post-regeneration story. It's one I don't go back to revisit quite a lot, but I'm quite looking forward to diving into the Target book. I have put it off a little while because I just physically go, oh, I need to read it. I don't really want to read it, you know. I just don't want to read it, but I've got to at some point because I do want to give it a review on it. And then, of course, jumping into Series 4, because at the moment, at this current time, we have had no Target book releases for Series 3. So Series 4, we've got The Fires of Pompeii. I know Planet of the Ood was released, but unfortunately I don't own Planet of the Ood, but I am hopefully to get that one. Fires of Pompeii, not a really bad story. I quite enjoy it. My best friend Jamie Arrowsmith doesn't really like the episode. I do understand his issues with it, like he's told me personally, but I actually quite enjoy it because Peter Capaldi's in it and he plays the 12th Doctor later on, which is absolutely brilliant. So I do own this fantastic story. And then, of course, the only and last story I own for the 10th Doctor, which is only free, I actually own Waters of Mars. Now, this is my favourite 10th Doctor story, Terrorized, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. I got this for Christmas last year. I haven't even read it yet because I'm literally reading a lot of these. My collection's so big, I got a load to read. But I do need to read this one. I think I'll probably read this one after I've read The Ambassadors of Death, because that is the next one after I finish reading the Daleks Master Plan. So then, of course, for the 11th Doctor, I've only got 1 out of these 2 releases, and I've got The Day of the Doctor. So this is actually quite good to own in my collection. I absolutely love it. I mean, look at that artwork with the 10th Doctor there, the 11th Doctor, Daleks and Saigons, with the War Doctor kind of peeping out there. Quite good to own. I have read this one. I have got a review on it to do, because there's just so much to dive into. Like, there's absolutely so much I need to really dive into for my review. Then, of course, for Peter Capaldi. So, for the 12th Doctor, I only had 1 last time I did this collection video on my Target books. But now I've got 2 books for the 12th Doctor, which is actually quite brilliant to own. So, I own one of my favourite episodes from Series 9, the Zygon Invasion and the Saigon Inversion. And it's a fantastic follow-on from Day of the Doctor. So, it's quite nice to own Day of the Doctor on Target book and then diving into this one, which is absolutely brilliant because, as it says on the blurb, it took 3 doctors to break a vital peace between the Zygons and the humans. It's a nice way to kind of follow on from Day of the Doctor. I wish that we had this in Series 8 more, because that would have just been perfect, but, you know, I can't moan. It's actually quite nice to own this on Target Book, so I do have a 2 out of 3 Zygon stories so far. I just need to really get my hands on Tales of the Zygons on Target Book. And then, of course, I've got Twice Upon a Time, the final story for the 12th Doctor. And I have read this one. Honestly, I have. I am thinking of getting David Bradley if I get to meet him again. I have met him once, and I've got my DVD copy of Twice Upon a Time signed. I am hoping to get this signed by him as well, and Peter Capaldi at some point. And then, of course, we have the 13th Doctor now, and she's had 2 releases, I think, and I've only got 1 of those releases. So the other one the one I've got in my collection, you're probably wondering what one is it. I have got Doctor Who Kablam. Kablam is one of the best episodes from Series 11 in my point of view. It's the one I have gone back to rewatch quite a lot. I don't really rewatch a lot of Series 11 because it's definitely the weak point of, definitely one of the weak points in Modern Who, and definitely the weak point in Whittaker's era. But it's actually quite a good and written story, so I do quite enjoy it. And of course, I own this little beauty, Doctor Who and the Library of Time, which is basically little bits of chapters from books that have come out but I haven't got, which is basically they've got a chapter from The Pirate Planet, a chapter from Resurrection of Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks, the TV movie, which I got, Dalek, the Crimson Horror, and the Witchfinders, which I don't really own, but it's quite nice to own a little bit of that. And that is basically everything I own on Target Book from season 1 to season 23. Then, of course, season 25, the TV movie, and a little bit of Modern Who. Unfortunately, I don't own any of the 60th anniversary specials on Target Book yet. I know they're out with The Star Beast, The Giggle, and Wild Blue Yonder. I am hoping to get them at some point so I can put them into the collection and then read them, because I did actually quite enjoy the 60th anniversary specials more than I actually thought I was going to. But yeah, that's actually my Target Book collection. What Target Books do you own? Let me know in the comments. Please do like, subscribe and share, and join me for more awesome Doctor Who content. Have a cracking day, and let me know what do you think of my Target Book collection as well. Do you think it's looking brilliant, or I need a little bit more work on, considering that I do need to try and get my hands on season 24 and season 26 on Target Books. So anyway, let me know. Thank you for watching, and join me for more awesome Doctor Who content.